art for me, as a means of communication, is the second oldest, first being movement, a biological need to communicate with my outer world. And these images, which are very much alive for me, which very much exist for me, become a way to reach out the outer world, a way to sort of see the outer world and call them to me for communication. What is that which sort of captivates me most? It was always the feminine. I always wanted to talk about the feminine. My love for the feminine started when I saw Durga sitting on the back of a lion. It was like she was controlling the whole masculine energy, and she was totally in control. That awe probably remained, and it intrigued me into various other ways of looking at the feminine form and the feminine energy. The concept of the feminine or the golden womb came to me almost about 30 years back when my mother had departed. The celebration of life becomes the prerogative of the feminine. It is that space, that womb through which we all have emerged. Our umbilical cords are tied to that space, and somewhere we are all connected. We are all a part of that space, and that brings a beautiful idea of that there is no other.
Hi, Seema ji. I'm so happy to be continuing our conversations that have been ongoing since the past almost 2-3 years now.
It's always good. It's always nice to have these kind of discussions, talks, and meetings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So glad that we can have it in this continuing manner. But we'll jump right into it, into your work. There's so much to speak about. And I think there's so many ways in which your work has been read over the years, as the cultural topography has been shifting. So many different writers, curators have read your work in ways that range from the esoteric to the bodily, to looking at very specifically at form as well. I think for me, going through your work and especially conversations with you about aspects of the work that really don't necessarily make it out, and especially these connections between the feminine energy and the abundance of this energy blooming forth from the golden womb, and its connection to the natural world, to the swans that we see, to the beautiful old wise trees that we see in your paintings, to the moon and the sun. I'm really feeling like your work fits really well into the realm of, I think that a very valuable reading of the work could be through the realm of spiritual eco-feminism.
True.
And
that's absolutely true.
Ecofeminism, of course, is this range of philosophy that deals with connections between ecology and the feminine, and the different kinds of feminisms, actually. And there are also like activistic feminisms, but also more subliminal, more spiritual feminisms like we see in your work. Some of the proponents of ecofeminism are Anne Sprinkles and Beth Stephens, like, but there's so many more.
We have our own in-house Vandana Shivan, I think. She's also one of the spiritual eco-feminists. I don't know if I'm putting her in the right space.
Yeah, and I see that kind of coming together of spiritual energy with aspects of the feminine and their connections into the beautiful green blooming world. And I want to hear from you a little more about what is this connection between feminine energy and the natural world that you, what does it mean personally for you?
You know, it is very, when I was introduced to this term by you, actually, Shaunak, you had, I think, introduced me to Rosy Raduti, though she's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
You have,
more of a new materialist, but also like I think very much comes within a larger realm.
That range, though she talks in a much bigger space, in a much bigger space. But I remember you telling me about ecofeminism, and I going through it. And when I read about it, this term was new for me. But the spiritual ecofeminism was all about what I was doing. And this is something which was very overwhelming, at the same time very heartening. You know, I felt, okay, there is a world out there which may be understanding what I'm doing. It may not be just a very closed kind of a thing that I'm doing, which I sometimes it's very difficult for me to make people understand, and it comes as a very beautiful, decorative, maybe, or some kind of a work which you know, talks about a very basically in the whole subcontinent. It talks about that. But then I realized the whole universe is all about ecofeminism. It is nothing more than that. I talk about the world and every one of us connected with each other, because we all emerge from one single space, one single womb, and umbilical cords are tied together through one navel, one space, and that's what it is all about. Maybe we have different forms, different colors, different, you know, we may be from different genres also, animals, birds, trees, anything, fish, like you, and humans, of course. And humans, I put them all across as one gender, as the feminine, and the rest of everything also, because for me, everything is emerging out from that single space. So the content is same, but the form, maybe the outer garb is different. So for me, that is what it is all about. And the moment we started disintegrating this feminine energy, and not only the feminine form, I'm talking about the feminine energy, I think that's where the first dishonor happened, you know, because the first space was the ownership of land, of nature, of spaces. And that's what is the ownership of the feminine. And how easily it was shifted to the one who was creating, and it was shifted to the woman. And all the things feminine, it is also about the cow. It is, you know, it is because they all were reproducing, and that is feminine. The feminine energy is constantly collaborating. You give, it is constantly collaborating. It's constantly moving. It's constantly expanding. And
sometimes people ask me, how do you think it is expanding? That is the nature of the thing. I said, no, it is not only the nature of the things. What is the nature of the things is that there has to be a space with which it connects and then it expands. Even while we are walking, Shaunak, our one step goes back and the other step comes forwards, and then the backward step again comes forward. And that's what the coordination. And today, like what we are doing is another form of golden womb that I talk about, Hiranyagarbha, that I talk about, that space through which we are all emerging. And why do we need to disintegrate? We all exist, and we cannot deny we exist. So where is the problem? That becomes a very important aspect of my work. And I start to look at that aspect in everything I do, in everything I create, in every content, any concept that I work with. I find that the feminine is the cause. So that's how I connect with ecofeminism. I can go on and on about it, but this is in shell what I think, how I connect.
No, it's so beautiful to go in. So beautiful to go into your thoughts and sort of your insights into the feminine that you've been delving into for so many years in your oeuvre. And I think what you were saying about this process of continuous reproduction and continuous collaboration, it makes me think about the idea of flow that you write about a lot and that you speak about a lot. I think that one also sees it in your style of drawing and painting. There's a certain movement of energy across the canvas. They're not in statics. The figures, the characters, the different segments, they're not really in statics, but they're conversing with each other through these lines of energy. And so on one side, we have this beautiful idea of flow that is moving along. And on the other side, we have your video where you talk about moving into stillness. Now, I don't think that they are not opposites, of course, because when we have some contradictions, there's a beautiful charge between them. But can you, what do you see as the relation between this idea of flow and stillness?
This was a time during the pandemic, and I think there was a lot of time on me, and I have to give a lot of credit to Navdeep Johar for this, because this was the time I've been wanting to take his, classes on somatics and stuff, and I could not. And during this time, it was possible for me to do that. And that it's sort of, the politics of body was, I think, somewhere in discourse, because all throughout my life, reading Vedantic texts, I'm going into a little, wider explanation. The body was always subservient. It is the vehicle, but here, to the mind, but here I was treating my body as a separate unit, having an entity of its own, and seeing its behavior. It was beautiful. And I started to work on myself, and this is how Entering Stillness came. And I had a lot of time, ample of time on me to sort of break the dichotomy, between the body, mind, and maybe the outer space and the inner space, whatever you may call it. And that's the reason I use the idea of the sword. And when you start to work on one concept, there are many other different things that are there. There's so many layers to it. I was also talking about the rising of the chakras, the finding of the vortex to the end of the spine, and maybe even somewhere below that, we don't know, the bell, and how the energy is rising and splurging up. And all these things were so intimate that I wanted to express it. And that's why I took a studio space, which is the space inside, and then there was a space outside. We were on the banks of Yamuna because that was so beautiful during the pandemic. There was nothing happening there. It was all green and lovely. And that's where I did the outer space, the outer body and the inner mind, or the layers of subconscious that I worked on during that. And I wanted to, sort of talk about that there is no outer and inner. It's just a very well, collaborated, coordinated, some kind of a thing which you cannot pull it apart. And it was like an introduction to my own self, my own body, breaking my own sort of probably some venturing through different spaces within me. That's what I wanted to express. That's what I wanted to talk about. It was also about, the rising of your own energy, and how do you express it? There are different ways of expression. So I took this whole thing of sword as a breath also.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of, because that's how you see it rising, it's coming down, and that's what it was all about. It can be very, visually, it can be very beautiful. It was also about breaking of the umbilical cord, the cutting of the umbilical cord. I had the birthing. So I used a lot of the visuals from my own works also, which I did during that time, and how each work travels through the different mediums. The work which was at the back of my, where I was performing, I had projected that, but that was of birthing, and how it had traveled to a different medium as a performance, and what it was differently. It's for people, they can think that, oh my God, these are two different mediums and they have different visuals. What are we talking about? But this is how one expression, when expressed in different mediums, can be absolutely astounding. It can be very different.
I love your constant exploration of different mediums. I feel there's a certain childlike curiosity that is so beautiful to witness, where you're constantly exploring, you're constantly getting joy in the new, in the unknown, in pushing yourself. And I feel like that I hope I don't lose that quality when I'm at your age. It's so beautiful.
You will not. You need to keep exploring. And you don't have to do anything for it, I feel, Shaunak, because the images, they are alive. And the moment you respect the images, the line, the very fact that space, which is letting you sort of explore them, I think there is a different connection with the images, and you just have a conversation, right? Now, what do you want to do? What do you want to wear? You want a haircut? Okay. Like I was seeing my hair flowing too much in my works, and I said, okay, the pandemic is over, and I'm just going to stop my. So it's not, where is the fear? Where is the fear? Oh my God, I'm looking different. I can't recognize. Okay, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're a different person. Sure. So, you need to keep that spirit of exploration and purest. I feel. I'm not talking for anyone.
Definitely. But I think thinking about these different media, and I was thinking when I was kind of recollecting your work, I was thinking about the body in your work, and thinking about, on one side you work with sort of really heavy bronze sculptural material, and that you've been doing for many years now, the depiction of these bodies, mutating bodies taking off, all forms of bodies. And now that you actually put your own body into performance, which you've been doing very recently, how do you see the difference between this heaviness and the live act versus the heaviness of molding something into sculpture?
Shaunak, I have been performing since 2003.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's my...
Yeah. No. It's not yours, this thing. It's, but those videos, they're still not edited. They're still in the... And then we had those very big kind of tapes, and on which...
Yes.
I was always... I never...
Can I rephrase? Can I say the question again so that we can use it? Yeah. So coming from these different mediums that you are using, I think that I was thinking about two ends of perhaps the spectrum. When we are thinking about body within your larger practice, when thinking about the representation of body within the practice, I was thinking of one end of the idea of the heaviness of a sculpture in brass, in different forms, in different kind of almost taking off sometimes. And on the other end, I'm thinking of the body coming into performance, coming into live performance, which has a sense of ephemerality, has a sense of lightness in the moment. How do you see these two different ideas of bringing the body in?
I think it is also of the context, because this was the first time, I think, because I experienced that moment of flight, which I have not expressed ever before in my performances. These performances are not scripted. They're very much at the moment, and later we edit and just put it across, right? So, because I was working with a lot of light series, and they were all heavy, like all on canvas and bronzes, and all that material was, a lot of material was involved. And here I was wanting to actually experience that flight, which I did experience during the somatic classes. I was shocked, because I'm not a performer per se. Like I consider myself an artist. I'm not a trained, even the movement performer. But during the sessions that I was having, somatic sessions that which were being conducted by Natej, it was not once, but many times I had the out of body kind of an experience where, and I wanted to share that flight, I know I have not, because now I watch it and I said, no, it is not this, it is something more than this. But yes, I do like the medium to take over and just be the medium, and not probably the performer that I could be. So probably then it doesn't become such a intimidating kind of, no medium is intimidating then, because you are the medium, right? The creativity probably does not, it can change. It's very malleable, it's very flexible, mercurial, and it does not have to be static. कि हम तो जी सिर्फ bronze बनाते हैं, मेरे को लगता है that becomes very, you're creating boundaries, and I'm all about sort of clearing away all these, and that's what I'm doing in in the sword. I'm also clearing the cobwebs of my mind, of my subconscious. So it's great fun. I think that little sense of that moment is what I think I crave for, and I just I feel I've got it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I think this our conversation this time has all about being about opposing forces, and so I have one more thought about another thought about opposing forces that, but it's in a very personal space, and it's something that we have discussed and found some different resonances at different times. And you think about this idea of taking flight, and I love that metaphor as well. I love your sculpture of Sohamsa, where there she's just taking flight with the beautiful wings. But so but thinking about the opposition of flight and this idea of roots, and this is something that we've both, like I said, discussed very often, that this constant quest through creative action, through exploring different kinds of sources, whether spiritual, mystical, more earthy, of trying to find a sort of a dislocated route. Both of our families moved from the land that is now known as Pakistan into what we call as India. And I've never personally been able to go back to my the space where my grandparents came from. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity, but it's really grown deeper and deeper in my mind, that how do I find those threads of connection? How do I understand very more intuitively, sensorily, how do I understand something about those roots? And I was wondering how that comes into your work, or how do you navigate these questions?
I never realized I was always into stories by my grandfather, my father. They are not stories, they are narratives, oral histories. And they were always so pleasant. I even know the mohalla probably in the village of my father, where they used to live, Mohalla Marfatia. How do I know it? Like, how do I know that they were rose fields? They used to go climb up the camels and go around, and they used to be lookouts on the trees, and they used to be, probably having that. And there is so much of inheritance that we have got, and there were not much memories of course, I know how they got settled and how they built up their lives, how my father self-educated himself, earned work, and worked at the same time. Most of the people did that, and how they built their careers in New India, which we are a part of. But at the same time, there is a strange thing that whenever I go and probably meet, I don't know if I should say, probably like I was in London and I was visiting some friends, and they said that their great-grandmother was born here, and then it used to be like a huge county, and it was now almost close to the central London. And I was so thrilled. I said, wow, you get to be in a place like your children are born here, like amazing. And I never realized I was thinking of it as something very big. And she just held my hand and she said, I'm so sorry. I get actually goosebumps. And I just said, sorry. And then I just looked at her and I almost had tears in my eyes. So these are the reminders. And I have experienced the same in my own country, where I feel that, oh my God, in this village, your great-grandparents were living in this house. Probably they have ran in this house, and as children, your great-grandparents, grandparents. And when I think about the land where also my ancestors, 8 generations, which I already know about in 1810 ahead, who were all Hakims, Ayurvedic, Unani Hakims. And I know all their stories. I know the land on which they rode their horses and went around looking at the village people and curing them. I know where my father's umbilical cord is buried, which he at 92 says that "Utthe meri naad dabiye." My umbilical cord is still there, you know. So it's not that you want to change time. It's only about love. It's only about fragrance. It's only about just love, I think, and nothing else. There's nothing else more than that. Because no one, we as people are nomadic. We as birds are constantly flying from one continent to another. But this is not. This is a little forced kind of nomadism. So this sort of is not easily adjusted with the mind that we have or the people that we are. We are only about subconscious. We are only about roots. However deep the roots are, we can expand that far. So that's why the trees are there. That's why the roots are there. That's why the inheritance and the loss of inheritance. And also, in fact, I'm privileged to have an inheritance. You know, there are lots who are not even privileged to have, and we are in very privileged space when we talk. So I'm able to do a book on my father. It is my father's autobiography, Mitar Pyare Ho, in which he's talking all about this. And that's very close to my heart. It was almost like recording a historical time, a time which existed, which we can't believe it ever was. Actually, it sounds, the halo, it sounds as if it was a myth. I've always said that everything becomes a mythology, after a few 100 or 50 years, it'll be a mythology, nothing more. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's so beautiful when you say that everything is just about love.
Yeah, and my father wrote such beautiful lines. I must say those, in the book. Memories are seamless and borderless. The native in you and me resides in the homeland of memories that can't be partitioned. Memories cannot be patrolled on borders.
So beautiful.
That's what it is.
Thank you so much for this. And my heart feels full, and I really look forward to to blooming and branching out further with you in these years ahead.
I do the same. It's always a pleasure. It's all because it's always heart to heart. It's never other way. So lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm very happy, and all the best
for
your document.
See you soon over here.
Very soon.